Welcome to Your Inheritance, your rights, your obligations, your responsibilities, with your host, Peter Bochnewich. In each episode, you'll learn insights from experts. If you're being sued over an estate or if you feel you're not getting your share, Peter's firm can help you. You can find this show at www.betrustlaw.com and on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Now here's the host of Your Inheritance, Peter Bochnewich.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about and really announcing the Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar. It's a seminar that every estate planner, Southern California, should make an effort to attend. It's November 1st, 2023. It's at the Riverside Convention Center in Riverside, California. And my guest to talk about this event, again, November 1st, 2023. It's 1 to 6 p.m. at the Riverside Convention Center. And my guest to talk about this event, it's the, what is this one, Phil? It's the 41st? Is this the
44th?
44th Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar. It's been on for 44 years. It's a very big event in the legal community in the Inland Empire and increasing force in Southern California. My guest is Phillip M. Savage the Fourth. He is a director in the San Bernardino office of Fennemore, a national, international law firm, certainly a national law firm. And he specializes in trust and estate planning, trust administration, works with his clients to build business succession and transfer plans that preserve wealth, enhance family relationships, all of the types of things that we will be talking about at the Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar as we do every year. Phil is a certified specialist in estate planning and got his JD at Loyola Law School and his bachelor's at Stanford University. And jumping right into it, this is a great seminar, and the attendees will be getting up to 4 hours in credits. And Phil, it's not limited to MCLE for lawyers, is it? It cuts across a broad array of disciplines. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct, Peter. Yeah, we have credits for attorneys, for insurance, for financial planning, for CPAs, and for fiduciaries, and for attorneys, we have regular MCLE, and we also have specialization credit for estate planning attorneys, and we're also going to get specialization for tax planning specialization. So it's a great opportunity to get your education credits.
Great, and coming at the time, and we know we've got the California Lawyers Association meeting, usually comes up in September. People get some credits there. Then you roll into November. You've got a nice convenient seminar in Riverside to pick up 4 credits in some areas that we're going to be discussing in just a moment that are very, very interesting. Where is the seminar going to be? Riverside Convention Center, correct?
Yeah, we're really excited, Peter. As you mentioned, this is our 44th year, it is the Riverside Convention Center. It's a newer venue. I think this is only our 3rd year at the Riverside Convention Center. In fact, the seminar was really established 44 years ago by John Oliver and Joe Wallach, who are 2 well-known financial planning and insurance professionals here in the Inland Empire. Through just a huge amount of effort and hours of their own planning and effort that they did, and after about 25 years of their time and effort, they were deciding that they needed to find a way to kind of pass the hat. And so a number of us came together and decided that we were going to work hard and find a way, and to continue what they had really done an incredible job of creating. Put together and formally created a nonprofit and have for over 10 years now, we've continued the Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar as a group effort. And really, we're kind of an effort that kind of dovetails off the local estate planning councils. We work hand in hand with the Estate Planning Council of Riverside County, the Estate Planning Council of San Bernardino County, Estate Planning Council of Pomona Valley, the Desert Estate Planning Council, and the Charitable Gift Planners of Inland Southern California. But I really think we've got a great slate of speakers this year. It's a great, and as we said, we have a new venue. The Riverside Convention Center is really a great place for us to come, get together, to meet, and get to see face-to-face people that we work with. And of course, here's some really top-notch national speakers on topics that are very relevant to what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. I know for years and years, the event was held at the University of Redlands, but it's growing in its reach and its popularity, and it is at now the Riverside Convention Center is a stunning venue. It is it just go on the website, IEEPS. You'll see the pictures, the photographs of this convention center. It's a wonderful place to have a meeting, and it's a live meeting, and it's great to get back to live, isn't it? It's a great learning experience opportunity and a great networking opportunity. So talking about the speakers, the first speaker we have scheduled for the event is Mr. Brad Cashin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's Cashin?
Yeah, Brad Cashin.
Yeah. Phil, as an estate planner yourself, why is Mr. Cashin's skill set important for the professionals coming to the seminar?
Yeah, Brad is a very unique individual. Brad is the managing director of the Mentor Group. He has extensive experience in valuing and preparing private companies for sale and for capital raising. He's going to be talking on valuation in general. He is an expert in this area and will be providing his unique insight on valuing business entities. As an estate planning attorney myself, we deal with valuation of business entities on a daily business, and it is, the insight that Brad provides. It's a skill that is very, very valuable. He has both insights looking at it from what, he often will testify. I know personally he testifies to, in cases before the IRS on valuation, and he's going to provide some very unique insights to us at the seminar.
One thing I'd like to comment on is my practice is mostly a trial practice, mostly trust and estate litigation. We do some estate planning here, but I'm mostly a go-to-court guy on contested probate matters and non-contested probate matters. But I think it's very important when you go to a seminar to get the nuts and bolts of everything that goes on in the estate planning process from start to finish, from a litigator's perspective, to understand, to know, to appreciate, is just invaluable. And I don't think that there's anything that is wherever you are in whatever you're doing in the industry that we're in, every topic is relevant because you're going to deal with those things, and you might need to, as a litigator, I might need to reach out to someone who has a particular expertise in an area that I don't work with every day. That might be relevant to a disputed matter or a matter that we hopefully are trying to work out for the benefit of the family and get cases settled and things of that nature. So it's great to have people like Mr. Cashin on board. I know that our next speaker at the seminar is going to be Jacqueline D. Yu. She is a lawyer, estate planner, got her JD at Notre Dame Law School, Master of Laws degree from UCLA School of Law, and she also has credentials in tax and business law specialization, and also got her bachelor's from UCLA. And in looking at her topic, which is
Yeah.
estate planning tools and techniques for estates teetering on exemption threshold, and also her background, where uh, she's got some pretty esoteric topics that she deals with in her practice. I'm looking at her stuff, some stuff I got off of her website, using asset value discounting and estate freezing techniques, and also providing asset protection through multi-layer entity structures. Now, that's some things that we're familiar with to some degree, but that's pretty sophisticated stuff. So I ask you the question, is this a user-friendly seminar for everybody who would attend? Are some of the things so advanced that people would feel that they would, the younger attorneys or whatever would not want to come? I've never felt that way. I felt it's open for everybody, and that it's very valuable for anybody who wants to come, and they'll learn a great deal.
Well, it is very user friendly, and one of the things that's always been enjoyable about this seminar is that we have attorneys, we have CPAs, we have financial planners, we have trust officers, we have insurance agents. And I don't know if I mentioned, we also have charitable planners. I mean, we have people who are kind of affiliated in this broad area who come together. And in my practice, these are people that I talk to and that I work with every day in my practice in various capacities. And yet at this seminar, we can come together and all see each other face to face. And the speakers generally all deal with different areas that are involved in what we do. And it also helps all of us understand kind of the broader areas that we're talking about. I think it is very user friendly. We'll have different speakers, some that may be more technical, others that will be less technical, I guess. And it's definitely user friendly. I know I'm certainly looking forward to Jacqueline's speech talk coming up. Dealing with this exemption threshold is something that I face in my practice all the time, especially with the exemption threshold dropping in a few years from right now. It's a very high amount, 12.9 million approximately, and it's going to be dropping to something around 7 million, and that's going to have a huge impact on people's estates. And it gets to be a real challenge if your estate is approaching that threshold amount, how you deal with planning. And I'm very much looking forward to her talk, to see her talk about what strategies they're employing.
Because that's an inevitability. That number, that high exemption threshold is going to drop. I think that's absolute certainty. Political climate. I suppose it could even go lower. And then when you talk about who is going to be affected by that, particularly in California, working family with a business, acquired a couple of pieces of real estate, they're fortunate enough to have it appreciate a good bit with what's happened recently, and you could be at that 7 million future threshold pretty quick. And so the we're in the eye of the storm right now as far as that goes. It's coming where certain things with the exemption level being so high, for a married couple particularly, that's going to change. And I think it's going to create a lot of there's going to be a lot of busy estate planners out there, but probably one of the upshots is
it's going. I agree with you. It's likely to change. Although I always, as I tell my clients when I'm talking with them, I've always been there's something that I can be very confident about, which is that I've never accurately predicted what Congress is going to do. I think it's a pretty good guess that there's going to be gridlock. So even if we think we know what they might want to do, probably nothing will happen. And if nothing happens, then what the law says is what is likely to take place. But also, we talk about it going down to perhaps around 7 million in 2026. there are proposals out there to have it go down to 5 million, and there's even proposals to have it go down to 1 million. It just depends on what happens in the future. And if that happens, there's a lot of plans that are going to have to be addressed. And so the techniques that, Jacqueline will be talking about will be relevant to not just people that have what we might think of as very large estates. It could be relevant to people who have, a home and a 401k.
Right. Remember the days when it was 640,000, and then went up 1.5, and then it went to, just gradually went up. And then there was a point where,
well, it's 2010.
Right. Yeah. The 2010. Yeah. So to predict what's going to happen over the whole course of what has already happened is very difficult, but it's a sure thing that if we're looking at things dropping from where it is to 7 and then maybe going further, this is something that everybody's going to want to, who's in this practice area, is going to want to attend and really to attend a live meeting, meet people, listen to the speakers, have conversations with people, because I think it's just fundamental to the practices that we all have. The next speaker at the event is going to be Reynolds Cafferata. I know Reynolds pretty well from matters we've shared together. He's a fine gentleman, and he's got his JD at the University of Southern California, very accomplished there, Order of the Coif there, and his bachelor's from George Washington University. And his practice is concentrated in the area of nonprofit tax, estate, and trust law. And he is going to be speaking about estate and charitable giving update. Again, the latest news from Congress, the IRS, and the courts. And Phil, how valuable do you think these kinds of annual updates about the IRS, what's going on in Congress, how valuable do you think these are to people who practice in this area and who attend the Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar?
Well, it's very valuable. I mean, it's kind of what we live off of. Things keep changing, and it's extremely important to stay on top of it. Things are constantly changing, and it is very challenging as a practitioner to be able to make sure that you're keeping track of all the things that are relevant to the field that you're practicing in. And one of the benefits of attending seminars like this is that you're able to listen to, and Reynolds is really one of the stars in this industry. He really stands out. We are so lucky to have Reynolds come talk to us, because he really is one of the outstanding stars. And I'm, he's going to be talking, he talks at the highest level. He's a guy that really knows his stuff. And, to have him talk about updates, he'll be talking about the things that are truly relevant to what we do and the impact that it has to our clients and what we can do as practitioners to make sure that we're properly representing them.
Right. So that everybody is absolutely keeping up with things and meeting their ethical duty, all practitioners, to practice within the standard of the care, the level required of us in the community, so that you do things right and nothing bad happens to you. And that's what these seminars are all about. And I always get something very valuable out of any conversation I've ever had with Reynolds. So it's also it's a user-friendly affair. This is kind of a family affair. Our next two speakers happen to be brother and sister, I note. We have a pair of siblings as our next speaker. Elizabeth Bawden is a partner at Withers Bergman, and she is in the private client and tax team over at that firm. And she focused her efforts, of course, on estate planning, plan giving, and tax-exempt organizations, and represents clients in matters related to wealth transfers for large estates. Another certified person by the Board of Legal Specialization as a legal specialist in estate planning. She's also a member of ACTEC, American College of Trust and Estate Counsel. What is Ms. Botting going to be speaking about?
Well, yeah, Elizabeth and her, I believe it's her husband, who's the other speaker, David Botting.
I have it on the website as a sibling.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it's her sibling, David. Okay, but Elizabeth and David are going to be talking on the Corporate Transparency Act, and I can tell you that I think that is a sleeper of a. It's going to be a huge issue, the Corporate Transparency Act. I was, the Corporate Transparency Act is intended to provide law enforcement with beneficial ownership information that's intended to detect, prevent, and punish terrorism, money laundering, and misconduct through business entities. And I want to listen to what is, to the talk that we're going to hear, but I believe the way it's going to be enforced is each state is going to enforce it, but as a practicality, it's going to place a significant burden on small businesses that are required to collect the information related to the ownership of each of the entities. And it does put things at odds with some of what we try to do with estate planning. With estate planning, we're often trying to create entities. Some people are concerned about, they're trying to protect their assets. They don't want, they want to make sure that, they've got family members that may be fighting. They might have disagreement between people, and they may create entities with names that they create, but and their thinking is that they can, they don't want to get sued, or they don't want things to happen. But what the Corporate Transparency Act is going to do is it's going to create some form of requirement that they're going to have to disclose the underlying owners of various corporate entities. And from a law firm standpoint, it's going to put us with a burden of having to make sure that our clients are in compliance. From an individual business entity's standpoint, they're going to be required to make sure that they're complying. I think it's going to be a very big compliance issue going forward as this law is implemented across the various states.
Is this something that the small business community is probably not entirely ready for?
Yeah, I don't think we really know exactly how it's going to impact, because we're going to have to wait and see how each state implements it. But I think the federal government has kind of imposed it, but as I understand it, it's going to be implemented by each state.
And we could expect that each state will have their own emphasis. It might be more vigorously enforced in some states than it might be in others, and we might expect that the individual states might have their own state policies that are maybe mirror the federal imposition of this law. But it's that will definitely be something that will be very useful to anybody who practices in this area. I noticed that Mr. David Bottin is a paralegal, and I think that's great. We're going to have paralegals are welcome to the event. Absolutely. And,
I've had paralegals in our office attend the seminar.
Sure, they're an essential part of the estate planning practice. I think the paralegals in the estate planning arena are probably some of the most the finest and most. That's my view. They're a true paraprofessional. And when you get into estate planning paralegals, they get involved in probate and trust accounting, obviously working under the supervision of a lawyer, but they are generally, I think from your experience as well as mine, they're essential to the process, essential to keeping, I think they help keep costs low for the clients, but they're also essential to doing a great amount of work in the estate planning process, and we're just happy to see that we actually got a speaker who's going to be a paralegal, and that we invite paralegals to the seminar.
No, I think that's wonderful, and yeah, they're an extremely valuable part of helping us provide legal services to our clients.
This is a live event, so it's good to get back to being live. I think we're finally getting there. We're post-pandemic a little while now, and gradually, I've noticed in court, judges are liking, a few judges have mentioned they really like people coming back to court. They definitely want to see you on they'd like to see you on video, or they definitely want that face-to-face contact. I've had those comments from a couple of courtrooms, and I do think that, what I miss about going to court when the courts were fully populated with us milling about the hallways before we would go into court and actually see the judge face-to-face, live and in color, was the interaction that you used to have with people in the courtroom about your cases, or in the hallway about your cases, that we lost a little bit during the pandemic. We have the convenience and the additional resource of being able to access most courts by video conferencing, and that's great. That's absolutely great. But there's nothing better than live, I think, for networking. This is a live event. We encourage everybody to come and take part of all the event has to offer, including some pretty good food that's usually delivered every year, and some wonderful networking opportunities, and the ability to meet people. And what do you have to say about the prospects of this being a live event and the benefits of that?
Well, I agree with everything that you said, Peter. And the reality is, I tell my kids every day what I do is I help people solve problems, and the nature of that is that I work with other professionals in typically in the community, and it is when I'm working, whatever the matter is that I'm working on, it is 10 times easier to resolve that if the person on the other side is someone that I know and someone that I've worked with before. And when I'm talking to a client and they say, well, there's this issue I need to work with, and whether it's a dispute with a sibling, or whether it's a trust matter, or whether it's whatever the matter is, and they say, yeah, and there's this person on the other side and they have this attorney, and I say, well, who's the attorney? Well, if I know that attorney, I can say there's a pretty good chance we'll be able to figure out a solution that's going to work for everybody, because we're going to find a solution that is amicable. And what that gets to is when we have these events like the Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar, I get to sit down and talk to, that's the great thing about the Inland Empire, is that we know a lot of the people. And even though we're a huge geographic area, you really get to know many, if not most, of the people who really play an active role in our communities. And whether it's the desert area, or it's the Riverside or the San Bernardino area, and so it really plays a huge role to be able to go to these events and say, I'm talking and I'm interacting and I'm just saying hello to a huge portion of the people who interact in our greater community. And I know if an issue comes up, I can call this guy. If something comes up, I can call Peter. If something comes up, I can call this person. And it's really important. That's even more true now that, it used to be, I think even for the younger people in my office who are more likely to be working remotely than they are necessarily to be in the office, I think coming to these events are even more important, because you really get to see and just really shake hands and kind of put a name to a face.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I really believe that while remote working has benefits, while video conferencing has benefits, while being able to speak with a client by Zoom rather than by phone, or if they can't come to your office for whatever reason, it expands your arsenal of communication and your ability to contact people. But there's nothing better I'll just give you a recent experience. Don't have to name names or anything, but I think when you're having a hotly contested issue and one lawyer is representing someone on a side and of a dispute, and I'm representing somebody else on the side of the dispute, and we're doing everything by the phone and we're doing everything by Zoom or whatever. When you go to court and you see someone in the hallway and someone reaches out and you shake hands, it's a big deal. And if you can, even if you're at an event and you have a break and you sit down and you have a meal with a person, or lunch or whatever, that's a big deal as well. And you get to know people at a personal level, and I think it can help smooth a lot of things out, and it can be a big icebreaker to achieving solutions for your respective clients, whether they're in a dispute or not. And I'm just so happy that we're getting back to that. And hopefully this is an event that's going to sort of lead the way in that. So the event again, it's November 1st. Doors open at 12:30. There's registration and networking from 12:30 to 1. Introductions from 1 to 1:15. Then we've got Ms. Yu with estate planning tools and techniques for estates teetering on the exemption threshold. Talked about that, how important that is. That's from 1:15 to 2:15. Then we've got estate and charitable planning update from Reynolds Cafarata. Going to talk about the latest news from the Congress and the IRS and the courts from 2:15 to 3:15. Then we have a good pace. We have another networking break, get some refreshments. Come right back at 3:45 with the Corporate Transparency Act, pulling back the curtain and shining a spotlight on client assets. That's Elizabeth and David Bowden, and we did it kind of in reverse order, I think. Brad, we talked about first, but I guess he's on the schedule at 4:45 to 5:45. If I knew then what I know now, decoding evaluation, and then we got closing remarks, and then we got a networking dinner and a reception. So you've got it's all wrapped up in a very fun event with a lot of opportunity for camaraderie and collegiality and learning.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Peter. When we were back at University of Redlands, the speakers we always had a wonderful group of speakers, and then we all looked forward to the reception, the hors d'oeuvre reception afterwards, because we would sit down and just talk with our colleagues, and they always had a wonderful spread. And even here, still at the Riverside Convention Center, we have a really nice reception afterwards where we just talk and just mingle and have some nice food and just talk to each other after the event and hang around and really have an opportunity and to interact and meet and just follow up and really catch up with people that we may not have seen since the prior year.
And I would say that at those dinners, which is a lot more casual, it's a lot more relaxed, you could have a conversation with someone next to you about an issue, and you'll get as much out of that learning as you did during the seminar, because you've got the person sitting right there. And I've met private professional fiduciaries that I've had relationships after that. You just meet so many people that improve your life and improve your practice and just improve the practice of law and the profession of law that we all love to practice.
Well, so, I know when I was, especially as a younger attorney, I would often come to these events with a couple of questions in my head that I knew I had matters, that I had issues I wanted to, and I knew, well, I know this senior attorney was going to be there, and because he's always there, I always knew I would see him. So I would just, I'm just gonna run this question by this attorney when he shows up, because I needed to, I know I needed this, I wanted to run this scenario by and see what, get his take on it. So it's always a great opportunity to bounce ideas off of people.
Well, Phil, thanks for coming on board. This is a great event. I'm proud to be a part of the Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar myself. And it's a great board with great people. It's the 44th year. Going to keep it going for another 44 years. November 1st, Riverside Convention Center. And we hope everybody who's watching this video will, all estate planners, anybody who's connected to this area of practice at all, litigation, you should go to this event. It's a great event. you will be very happy that you did.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk about the seminar.
Thank you.
You've been tuning in to Your Inheritance, Your Rights, Your Obligations, Your Responsibilities with your host, Peter Bochnewich. If you're being sued over an estate or if you feel you're not getting your share, Peter's firm can help you. You can find the show at www.betrustlaw.com and on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing the show with others.